Chapter 2. A man in uniform checked Grace's ticket and told her how to get to her cabin. There were long hallways that all looked the same, a lot of staircases, and people everywhere. The ship had started its voyage in Southampton, England, and then picked up more passengers in France before coming to Queenstown, the final stop before New York. Auntie Nora had only been able to afford a third-class ticket for Grace, so her cabin, room F57, was at the bottom of the ship, where everything was cramped and there wasn't any fresh air. It took a long time to find it, but Grace opened the door to her cabin at last. The cabin had 6 bunks, 5 already occupied by a family. They seemed kind, but they spoke a different language, so Grace couldn't communicate with them. There was space under Grace's bunk for her suitcase. There wasn't much in it. Some clothes, a piece of paper with Uncle Patrick's address on it, and a photograph of Auntie Nora. Once she had settled in, Grace realized she was hungry and set off to find the third-class dining hall. The ship was even more amazing than she had imagined. There was just so much to see, so many decks and cabins and other rooms, and she soon got lost in the enormous maze of hallways and staircases. The second-class decks certainly seemed better than the third-class ones. Grace spotted a cabin with an open door and peered through as she went past. It was bigger than her own, and there were only 2 beds in it. They looked much more comfortable than the narrow metal bunk she would be sleeping in. Grace continued up the decks, curious to see more, but as she was about to go through a door, a man in uniform stopped her. He asked to see her ticket and said she wasn't allowed in the first-class areas. Grace was disappointed. Everyone back home had been talking about how grand the first-class decks were. It had been in all the newspapers, and now she wouldn't be able to see them. But as she turned down the hallway, she noticed a window that would give her a glimpse into the first-class dining hall. What a sight it was! The people inside were dressed in fine clothes and sitting at tables covered in spotless white linen. The silver knives and forks and the fine glasses gleamed like something from a fairy tale. 2 boys stood next to Grace and looked longingly through the window, too. She recognized them from the third-class decks. Eventually, one of them snuck in through the door, grabbed as much cake as he could from a cart, and then ran out again. Somebody at a table yelled, "Stop! Thief!" And several stewards came bustling after the boys, but they were long gone.